for the last couple of years, I've been listening to you talking about the Brexit situation and everything else. And
well done.
I always felt that you were like kind of very biased and all the rest of it. But after all my shouting at the radio and shouting at you and all the rest of it, you asked the lady caller what was your lowest point.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm a staunch Brexiteer.
You were.
I were.
Yeah. You can't still.
Now, I don't know.
Right.
Because everything that's unfolding now in the last week, I'm now having serious doubts over, I mean, the fact that the Constitution is being played around with and they can't get that right.
Yep.
I mean, originally when Boris took over, I thought, yep, here's a man that's clearly a man of conviction. He knows what he wants. How is he going to go about doing it? And with business and everything else, it's not always black and white. There is always that grey, being economical with the truth type thing going on, which we know has happened. And now I don't know. I really don't. Your researcher said...
I don't want to have a scrap. I don't want to have a scrap.
No, I'm not here to have a scrap.
No, I know you're not, but that doesn't always stop me, does it, Dominic? Have you been?
No, that's true. I've listened.
Right, so... there's two things I'd pick you up on. The first is a bit of a gotcha, which is when you say he's clearly a man of conviction. I mean, mate, he clearly isn't.
Well, when I say a man of conviction, he wants Brexit. He shouted out, 31st, this is going to happen. Not only was that for us, that was obviously for the European Union, that this is going to happen. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened.
Right.
It's all gone
again,
very horrible wrong.
If I was in my forensic mood, I'd say, what was it from his past record that led you to believe he would keep a promise to you?
I suppose I was sold from his charismatic personality.
Fair enough. So was I, actually, back in the day, so I'm not going to give you a kicking for that.
No, because when he came, I mean, when he was Mayor of London...
But it doesn't answer my question, actually.
No, I apologise for that. But yeah, I mean, he's just his charismatic personality. And I've been around politicians. I was a councillor for a few years, and I was part of the Conservative Party, and I had an inside track on the Conservatives, on politicians in general.
Yes.
I mean, it's a bloody thankless part. There's no two ways about it.
It can be, except for the ones that it isn't thankless for. The ones who would be languishing in obscurity. I don't think Boris Johnson would be. He wasn't. But don't forget, people like Mark Francois, a lot of people on your team, mate, they couldn't punch their way out of a wet paper bag. What would Farage be doing if it wasn't for European Union membership and Brexit? He'd probably be collecting trolleys in a Tesco's car park. So, it's not always thankless, this life.
I mean, I tried so hard as a councillor to look after the people around me, but then I found myself in conflict with what the party line was to what was right and wrong.
Yes. And that's when politics does become actually almost inevitably dispiriting, because you have to Rory Stewart's very strong on this, on why, sometimes you have to just go along with what the party wants, otherwise you make a mockery of the whole system. But my second question, and this is a bit immodest, so all the years you've been listening and you've been shouting at the radio over what you used to think was bias, and I'm only going to ask you this once, I'm not going to keep asking it until the clip goes viral. What have I been wrong about? Here
we go. Nothing. You've not missed the point. You've analysed it.
Irish border.
So professionally.
Control of our laws, immigration policy, borders, money.
You have nailed it.
You're welcome.
My original for voting to leave the European Union was very, very clear and simple.
Yeah.
In a past life, before I'm doing what I was doing now, I was privy to unchecked migration and the devastating effects it had on people.
Fair enough. I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to relitigate that debate today either.
Exactly. That was my driving force. Freedom of movement, fine, no problem with that. But the biggest issue is the fact that people were coming in and you could just do what you liked. You could just wander in because you were part of the European Union without any checks. And of course, with my old career, I came across some of these people that had come through unchecked.
Yes.
And then it comes to light that they're not very nice, desirable people, and they had left devastation in their wake. So that was my driving force behind it. But of course, now as things have unravelled over the last couple of years, I mean, the Theresa May just not strong enough. Really felt disappointed by her. Thought she was going to no. And then Boris, with his charismatic ways, he'd carry it off. You know, people were behind him. He seemed to have a good control over over his own party. And then the expulsions, because they didn't toe the party line, they should have got behind him. Blah blah blah. And now I'm kind of like, oh God, do I think we should have another referendum? I don't know, because
of the people who haven't been on the journey that you've been on, and you haven't even mentioned, of course, that even with the immigration position, which I completely respect, is that successive British governments could have actually exercised a hell of a lot more control, which my friend Femi even got Farage to admit to live on the radio, which is why poor old Femi has to put on a fake accent now to get on that show anymore, I'm told.
He could have done it. The governments previous, whether they be Tory or Labour, could have done so much more. But they failed, and I actually feel failed as a person living in my own country.
Well, you have been failed. You've been let down mostly by my profession, actually, because, you know, politicians with personal agendas and vanity projects and desperations for fame and money have always been with us. But you're supposed to be able to rely on people in this business to say, that bit's true, that bit isn't, I don't understand that bit, but chuck that bit out with the rubbish on Wednesday. And you can't.